In 1978, the 49ers made a trade that should have destroyed their franchise. Instead, it unintentionally led to a dynasty. This trade gave the 49ers the player they needed to dominate the 80s. To understand how a trade accidentally leads to a dynasty, we first need to understand the 49ers situation before the trade. During their first 28 years in the NFL, the 49ers posted a sub-500 win percentage. Then in the early 70s, they found some success, making the playoffs 3 consecutive seasons. Unfortunately, each ended with a playoff loss to the Cowboys. By 1973, the team was back to their struggling ways. From 1973 to 1977, they finished with a 29-41 record. Then, in 1977, the 49ers were sold to a new owner, Eddie DeBartolo. One of his first moves was to hire a new general manager. He chose Joe Thomas. Although Thomas had success, turning the Vikings, Dolphins, and Colts into contenders, he was extreme and divisive. As one writer put it, he'll trade enough players, fire enough coaches, and stomp on enough toes to split 49ers fans into 2 camps, those who love him and those who hate him. He would see to that immediately by firing head coach Monty Clark. After an impressive 6-1 start in 1976, they hobbled to a 2-5 finish, but an 8-6 record was a clear improvement from the previous 3 losing seasons. Thomas did try to keep Clark, but Clark's contract gave him control over trades and the draft. When he refused to renegotiate those terms, he was fired. But that just made things worse. The following season, in 1977, the 49ers went 5-9. A drastic change was needed. Enter O.J. Simpson. Wait, what? Is that right? Yep, that's what I wrote down. He had just rushed for a league-high 1,500 yards, and while it was clear he had lost a step, now 30 years old, he still averaged a respectable 80 yards a game halfway through the 1977 season. That being said, retirement was on his mind. In week 4, he announced, "Next year is going to be my last, period." Fast forward to week 7, OJ got pulled from the game at halftime. His knee had been bothering him for the last 3 weeks, and it would turn out he would need to have surgery. The aging star's season was now over. The same star who suggested next season would be his last before the injury. At this point, all signs were pointing to retirement. Loaded with this information, Joe Thomas decided the best option was to not only trade for O.J. Simpson, but give up 5 draft picks for him. This is the type of trade that sets a franchise back a decade plus. But Thomas and the 49ers were desperate. They needed a star, someone to get fans back in the seats. And in 1978, there were few stars bigger than O.J. Unfortunately, his knee, post-surgery, was in bad shape. In his first season, he started just 10 of 16 games, rushed for 593 yards, and a single touchdown. It didn't help the passing game was equally as bleak. With that, the 49ers went 2-14. The silver lining to that season, Joe Thomas and the head coach would be fired and replaced with Bill Walsh. But Walsh inherited Thomas's mess. Part of that mess was O.J. Simpson, who played another season with the 49ers. This season, in 1979, he started 8 games, rushed for just 460 yards, but hey, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. That season, however, thanks to Walsh, the quarterback whisperer, Steve DeBerg had a far more productive season. But the 49ers still went 2-14. That would get them the number 1 overall pick in the 1979 draft, but that pick now belonged to the Bills. So in 2 seasons with the team, OJ barely started half of his games, just cracked 1,000 yards, rushed for 4 touchdowns, and fumbled 8 times. And the 49ers didn't have their number 1 draft pick. But as one writer noted, a similar situation to that involving Walsh and the 49ers of 1979 was that with Chuck Noll and the Pittsburgh Steelers of 1969. The Steelers had gone 2-11-1 in 1968, then actually got worse in Noll's first season, finishing 1-13. But, you know what's happened since then? Construction of the best team in pro football and the acquisition of 3 Super Bowls. Art Spander. You might be onto something. Despite DeBerg's improvement, entering the draft, Walsh was eyeing up a quarterback. Phil Simms had got his attention.
He goes to me, all right, here we go. I'm going to draft you. I want you out there the next morning. We're going to work. And you're going to lead the NFL in passing. You're going to lead them in this. You're going to lead them in touch. And I'm standing there, and he goes, you know, I guess I got a look on my face. He goes, well, you don't believe me? I go, yeah, I believe you, coach. Then he starts naming off every quarterback he's ever had, won all the passing titles, which is true. Yeah. And I was pretty excited about it. I go, oh, man, this will be great to play for him, go to San Francisco and all that. But, well, we know it didn't work out.
But Simms ended up being drafted 7th overall by the New York Giants, so Walsh had to adjust his plan. Entering the 3rd round, he was interested in quarterback Steve Dills, who he coached at Stanford. But others on the 49ers staff, including Eddie DeBartolo, were pushing for somebody else. A man who went by the name of Joseph Clifford Montana Jr. The rest, they say, is history. So if the 49ers never traded for O.J. Simpson, Walsh would have had a first-round pick and used it to select Phil Simms. Simms is a great quarterback, and he would have been great with the 49ers. But Joe Cool is Joe Cool. I doubt the 49ers would have become a dynasty without him. The other side of this trade might be equally as fascinating. The Bills drafted Tom Cousineau with the 49ers' first pick in the 1979 draft. But Cousineau opted to play in the CFL. He would end up in the NFL a few years later, but instead joined the Browns. The Browns would have to trade a first-round pick to the Bills to acquire Cousineau's draft rights. That would end up being the 14th overall pick in 1983. With it, the Bills selected Jim Kelly. Although Kelly decided to play in the USFL first, he did find his way back to the Bills in 1986. So the NFL would have looked a lot different if OJ had just retired after that injury.